If you guys are avid watchers of the channel, you know we are big fans of the factor meals because we're here wrenching all day. Our diet tends to suffer a little bit, some worse than others. So Factor offers over 25 chef-prepared, dietary-approved, always fresh, never frozen meals straight to your doorstep. And they also have add-ons like smoothies. We got tropical fruit, hot commodity around here. For us, convenience is everything, right? So we take these, poke a couple holes, 2 minutes in the microwave. Didn't even beep. Oh. Smells so good, dude. Big Steve, first one's for you, buddy.
This is my favorite time of the day.
So thanks to Factor, we're able to cut out trips to the grocery store and all that time meal prepping, and it allows us to be a little more productive at the shop, and got the boys eating good, feeling good with all these nutritional options.
It's a whole lot better than cheese balls.
T-Bone, what are you eating? That looks delicious, dude.
Sausage, potatoes.
Eat up, you're a growing boy. RJ, well, I don't know what that is, but it looks amazing.
It's slamming.
So if you guys want to try it for yourself, head to go.factor75.com/JimmyO60 and use code JimmyO60 and get 60% off your first Factor box. Now remember, head to go.factor75.com/JimmyO60 and use code JimmyO60 and get 60% off your first Factor box. But for now, we got to get back to work. All right, today's a big deal. Today is a deceiving big deal because I officially have both manifolds for the K series for the 86, right? The exhaust and the intake. And these two pieces are honestly gonna make the entire project. Like in terms of performance, fitment, and just looks, it's gonna be everything. I'm gassing it up big time. But we mocked everything up and it looks ridiculous. I say it's deceiving because once they're on, it's gonna look done. That's what always happens. Once you put the manifolds on, it looks done. And then you forget there's so much more to it, but I don't care. Manifolds are going on today. It's probably the thing I've been most excited for the last week. The intake just showed up in the mail and we're gonna get to it. So we're gonna start with the exhaust, okay?
For sure.
Easy.
Something you're ready for.
Something I'm ready for. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
So first big piece is the exhaust manifold. Look at this thing. This thing is ridiculous. Obviously, there's a couple things here that need to align. One, we need something that will make power. The whole thing is the more air we can get through this head, the more power it can make. And usually the biggest restriction is going to be your exhaust because it has the biggest limitation. But for us, we have these giant runners and they're actually configured in an equal length portion and they're kind of meant to fit the chassis. So it's kind of like a win-win overall. This is for an S chassis. Boom. This is TF Works or Toge Factory's S chassis NA K-Series header. But what makes it look a little extra crazy is actually meant for right-hand drive. I know it sounds a little weird, but we actually went with these. I went with these for two reasons. One, they hug the block a little bit tighter than the left-hand drive header, we'll call it, right? Since we didn't really know how much room we had in here versus an S chassis, we went with the conservative route and went one that hugged the block a little bit tighter, so then we knew it wouldn't get anywhere near the tubs and everything, right? And second, I thought they honestly looked way cooler because they have like this old school equal length 4AG NA header, right? Where it actually comes up, wraps, and then goes through.
That thing looks nuts.
It looks ridiculous, but in like the coolest way possible. Cause like we talk about, obviously like everyone wanted to see like a Toyota engine in here, like at least the purists did, right? Because 4AGs, they're just what makes sense in these. And I'm not trying to steal the soul from this car. I'm just trying to evolve it. So we're trying to keep that like energy alive. I think this header is a really good touch for us. So of course I just have to shout out one more time. This is made by TF Works. It's actually made for the S chassis, but it seems pretty universal in a sense because I can't imagine it making it any tighter to the block. If you guys are doing an NA swap, right here, I'll put the link in the description. So check this out. Like, I feel guilty that we're gonna get so much change with doing such little work, but check this thing out right here. Right there. We have like, you would think it was made for this chassis. Like, look at this room right here. It's perfect.
Clearance.
And then look at the back.
My God.
It's perfect, right?
So much room.
So let's get this thing bolted up and in place before we even talk about the intake. One of my favorite things about the K-Series is the fact that the exhaust manifold only has 5 bolts. Like literally nothing. Like to put a manifold on and off this thing, it's not a big deal compared to most cars. That also means we only have 5 clamping points to make sure this thing doesn't leak. So we're not gonna use bolts, we're gonna convert them to studs because as you guys know, studs are a lot stronger than bolts, at least when it comes to being able to torque them down, right? Because no one likes a snapped bolt in your damn head. It makes for a really bad weekend. There we go. So we're gonna have to trim that one stud right there because the manifold is very, very aggressive. We marked it, now we trim it. A little back and forth to clean the threads up. Boom. We're good to go. OE gasket. Perfect.
I can't wait to see like the color. Once they get a little hot.
A little hot, get some color in it.
A little bronze.
A little bronze. We just gotta wipe off all my finger grease before it burns.
Yeah, I was
in.
looking, you were sticking your arm in there.
A little bit of acetone or some like isopropyl. Get the oils off. Because if you start it with your hand oil on it, it'll kind of burn into the manifold. And with it being such a big piece of the engine bay, just make sure you have a clean slate.
Sore eye.
It's a sore eye, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a serious like.
Dude, it looks
Like-
ridiculous, right?
It looks like it's gonna.
It definitely looks like it's gonna but we got the exhaust on. Now for the next big piece, we have the intake portion. So as you guys might have seen, there's quite a few options for rear-wheel drive K-series manifolds out there, right? Because if you use a front-wheel drive intake, it points it in the wrong way. It points out the firewall. Or you can get a Skunk 2, which is a front-wheel drive intake, and you could flip it.
Really?
But, yeah, you haven't seen that?
No.
You've seen that. They on bolts, you could flip them. But they put the
Then it's upside down and everything.
no, and then the throttle body is like kicked in. It's a little weird, but okay. So here's the thing, right? We have this gangster 4-piston head in there. It's going to be sucking a lot of air in there, and I didn't want to restrict it with just any intake, right? So we were thinking, do a manifold, see how it does. Then maybe down the road, you know, upgrade to ITBs because ITBs are so damn expensive, ridiculous expensive. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, one, we're trying to get that, we're trying to keep that heart of the 4AG Toyota AE86 spirit alive, right? It's been a big point of this. And, well, we have everything looking so gangster. We had to keep this theme going. And so I sucked it up and I spent the money and I got myself a set of Kinsler Drag Cartel K-Series ITBs.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I had to do, like, I didn't want to do it off the rip, right? I kind of wanted to do like just a forward-facing intake off the rip because they still make decent power. They have better drivability, to be honest. And I wanted to leave some room for upgrade in the future. But after seeing the headers mocked up with the valve cover and everything, I was like, dude, we got to keep the theme going and just got to get this thing looking insane off the rip. And so there we go.
What size?
These are 67s. So that's a lot of throttle body. That's 67 millimeters per cylinder versus if we did a forward-facing intake, it would probably be a 70 millimeter for the whole entire head. So I have been so excited to see this thing mocked up on here with the header and everything. And this is a big moment. So let's do the first mock-up.
A few moments later.
So we just bolted it up and it looks so freaking cool. I could probably cry right now. So instead of just showing it off, I'm gonna cut straight to B-roll so you guys can get the full effect. How ridiculous is this? Like, I've literally been sitting here just like a little overwhelmed with it.
Dude, I can't wait to see how it performs. But it
Can we hear how it sounds?
reminds me of exactly how race cars of this era were, you know, but with like a sick ECU. And
Yeah, with modern
electronic
tech,
fuel injection.
It's cool. I love it. I honestly, I've texted probably way too many friends a photo of this because I just don't even know how to handle it. But I love it because it feels like it has the right soul to it. It doesn't look foreign in here. You know what I mean?
No, it looks crazy. With the equal length headers and the ITBs, it's gotta sound nuts.
It's gonna be loud. It's gonna be really loud. I mean, you guys have heard. I've heard a lot of beams with big ITBs, and the intake is louder than the exhaust. So I'm very curious on how this will match up because K-Series I think make a lot more exhaust noise maybe,
No,
but
it's fun. I was just thinking this we've seen a ton of K-Series with these throttle bodies.
Yeah.
Right?
But-
NA.
Yep.
But they always have a hood exit exhaust,
You're
and you
right.
can never hear it. Like,
It's gonna be really cool to see how it sounds with a full exhaust with these ITBs.
yeah, like I feel like I've heard this so many times, but none of them are gonna sound like this does.
I don't know what to expect. I really don't. The first time we start it, it will be open, so it's gonna sound just like what we're used to.
Right? We know what that's gonna sound like.
But it's nice. We don't. It's on a fresh bottom end, so I don't got to worry about breaking in. We could just get right on it.
Sick, dude. This whole thing is turning out sick.
I didn't mean for. This was supposed to be casual. It's casual. And
You
you,
weren't even gonna do a cylinder head or none of that.
I was gonna. It just everything. It just kind of made itself OD, which is pretty cool. You know what they say, B? Buy once, cry once, right?
That's what they say. Or you could end up like me and cry twice.
All right. Well, hopefully, there's no more crying around here. These are happy tears, dude. Loki really wanted to see how it compared though to like a regular intake, but whatever. We're skipping steps here.
So what? One less dyno video. You guys can't be mad about that.
Shut up. So we didn't talk about this before, but I meant to. So now that we are ITBs, we don't have a manifold, so we don't really have much of a vacuum source. But underneath the ITBs are individually, there's a port to bridge into, so we could run all of the 4 throttle bodies together to a separate little vacuum manifold, we'll call it, and then we can run that as our vacuum source. And the only thing I really see it beneficial for is for the brake booster, if you want to actually utilize this. But I was just thinking about it a couple minutes ago, and it's an 8.6. It might actually feel better with manual brakes. Since we're on ITBs, we're going to tune this probably exclusively off the TPS, also known as Alpha N, versus what we usually do and tune off of a map sensor. But since as soon as these throttle bodies crack, there's going to be no vacuum. So it really won't do much for the ECU. The only downfall I see right now is the drivability. Street driving wise might not be as nice as running a single manifold, right? With a lot of tuning and a lot of finesse, I can get this thing feeling pretty good and pretty smooth. If this is like your only street car and stuff, ITBs could be a little tricky with this setup. But we'll make it work.
Oh, it's gonna work. It's gonna work good.
Oh my God. So I'm gonna stare at this for another probably 30 minutes, go home, edit, and then come back and get back to it.
Sounds like a good idea.
All right, today's a new day, and well, I figured we have to get a little bit more done before we end this video, and well, we've been working on the Z all morning. This has been a big game of find that part, you know? It's not been fun, but whatever. This thing,
20-year-old car almost.
it's crazy to think it's old. It's getting there. We're getting there, RJ. The 30s, they're coming up quick.
Don't stop.
Yeah, it hurts. All right, so I figured since I want to hear this thing run before I go, we have to get more done. So RJ, here, take this. So today we're gonna do something that's actually pretty damn easy, and that is going to be the engine harness. That usually doesn't sound easy, but Wiring Specialties makes it sound very
I was gonna
easy.
say.
You guys have seen this box plenty of times. Honestly, I feel like I'm cheating every time I use Wiring Specialties harnesses because they kind of just like, you know, it's no thinking, just doing. Also, we did pick a winner for the valve cover, so he was emailed. So sorry if you didn't win it, but thank you guys for participating. And if you guys want to cop, I'm not wearing it. I was wearing it this morning. It was too warm. Hop below, shop your email. We have a couple hoodies left. So for now, let's check this thing out, right? So I know rear-wheel drive K-swaps are, well, obviously extremely popular right now. Wiring Specialties makes a swap harness for the rear-wheel drive K-Series. Who would have thought? It's crazy, right? It's actually a pretty big deal. So what's dope about this is Wiring Specialties can configure it to whatever ECU you want to run. If you want to run a plug-and-play style, or if you want to run a standalone ECU, right? And they'll configure it to their common chassis. And if they don't make it for a common chassis like the 8.6, which is, I guess it's a common chassis, but whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. They make a, we'll call it a universal harness, right? So check this thing out. So everything's module, right? That's how they make these harnesses, so they can kind of adapt them to each car. So this piece right here is usually what adapts to the car. So it'll come off and it'll have the plug that plugs into your factory dash, uses your factory stuff and whatnot. But since we don't have anything here, we have a generic fuse block right here. See it?
Chunky boy.
Chunky boy. And so it just gives us our generic leads, which will have fan, fuel pump, and an extra aux, which is pretty cool, right? Since that stuff's controlled by the ECU. And then right here is all the information that the harness gets, like the tach signal, right? The alternator light, reverse light, AC switch, right? This is stuff that,
It's pretty basic.
it's pretty basic, but this is the stuff that you're gonna have to wire in yourself, but it's not really that big of a deal. So if you need that stuff for like a stock cluster or something, you have it right here to tap into. So see, look at, and then they got the 2 wires right here that make this really easy to start, right? ignition, power, right? So we power this, and then this is to start. We hit this with power, and it cranks the engine. Boom. That's really all you need to actually power the whole harness. They make it super, super easy. So if you guys are putting a K-swap in something that isn't very common or they don't have a harness for, Wiring Specialty's rear-wheel drive K-Series universal harness. So we're gonna unplug this for now, put this off to the side. And then, now we just have our generic K-Series harness.
Ow. It's 2 Tonys tall.
2 Tonys.
2 Tonys.
1.5 tones.
Like it.
So we're just gonna get right after it, and we're gonna first start off by shoving this thing into the firewall, and right here is pretty cool if you wanna look at this, right? So I'm actually getting this, so I actually got this made for the stock ECU plug, right? I think it's like the DC5 plug is the most common one, which a lot of guys would use if you're using a Honda ECU, which is very common. Or one thing that people don't really know about, because it's still kind of new, is Link actually makes a full plug and play for the K-Series. So if you want to get rid of your buggy Honda, Link makes a full plug and play. And we'll show you all about that later on, but for now, stock ECU plug even gives you the little OBD port, which is kind of cool if you are running the stock ECU.
That's sick.
So even though it's a universal harness, they will pin everything on the connector side to what you need to be, since every case setup is going to be a little bit different, right? Depending on the TPS, the map sensor, the injectors, what transmission we're using, right? Since we use S2000, it's pinned for the S2000. It should be pretty good. It should be pretty straightforward. It's just, you read it, coil 1, let me plug it in. You guys have seen me do this a million times. Boom. And everything else, we're going to hide under here. Hopefully. I always like going up from the bottom with the injectors because it kind of always makes the harness hug really nice underneath the manifolds. You know what you say, so easy, even Donnie could do it. That looks sick. This is perfect. A little P-clamp on the firewall, boom, easy. This car is so easy. I love it. It's just really expensive. It's deceivingly expensive. Like I thought, like, oh, it's an old car, it's simple, it's not much to it. And it's just like, holy crap, oh my God. But I don't know. I feel like people don't talk about it. Like, K-swaps always sound so cheap. I don't want to discourage anyone from a K-swap, but I mean, I went a little over the top, obviously, right? But K-swaps aren't cheap. They sound so, they're like LS swaps. They sound so cheap because the motor's cheap.
The motor's the cheapest part.
You can get a damn K24A2 for $1,000 at a junkyard in America.
Then you spend $6,000 to get the rest of the stuff to make it fit.
More. It's so much money. Then you gotta do all the new timing with the water pump, all that. That alone's $1,000. Then you gotta do this, whatever. I'm gonna shut up because I'll go on a rant about it, but I don't want to discourage anyone from it. Just know it's, when you talk to your buddy and you're trying to sound smart, it's not cheap. It's really fucking expensive. I've done a lot of engine swaps, but okay. One last thing I want to show. I'm getting a little jaded now. I was thinking about this before. I was like, you know, we've done so many engine swaps now, I like forget what's like the hard part, what's the important part, and all those nonsense. So if I over-explain stuff, I apologize. If I under-explain stuff, let me know, because I'd like to share info as much as I can. Right? Whatever. All right. All I can tell you is the zip ties will be your best friend for making wiring look nice and neat. So clearly there's nothing in the car right now. Literally, I mean, there's a steering wheel and a dash beam, but we're gonna be doing a full standalone wire harness with switches and stuff. It's gonna be like set up with street functions, but track car. So our fuse box is gonna be operating our engine harness, we'll call it, right? Our fans and our fuel pump, which is really nice. We'll just have to remote mount this out of the way, right? So we take this, and we'll be making a mount somewhere, you know, somewhere that fits and is easy to access. It's super cool that they give you this fuse box. You don't really have to think, right?
I love not thinking.
I love not thinking. You just splice and go. So this is easy, right? We need power from the battery. So we're gonna put a power block in here somewhere. We have our communicational plug to our engine harness. We'll plug in right here. All right, it might look overwhelming, but it all adds up, right? Plug that in. And now we'll wire straight to our fans, straight to our fuel pump, and then we'll control everything else via the ECU. Easy.
Peasy.
We'll get a link dash. We don't have to hook any of this stuff up. We could do it via, whoa. So we'll do everything through CAN bus, and it's literally easy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do, but it's plug and play.
It's tedious, but it's easy.
It's tedious, but it's easy. Easier than it really seems. So, wow, that was a lot of stuff. Still a lot of hooking up to do, but we're gonna hear this thing run before I leave.
Cool. I hear it scream.
I can't guarantee it, but I'm gonna guarantee it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm feeling confident, but you know, first start there's always something.
That was a crazy guarantee that you just made.
Yeah. I can't guarantee it, but I guarantee it. High hopes, low expectations. That's my life motto. Put that on my gravestone. You know?
Closer.
Oh yeah, we got a new fender because the other one got so crunched it like wasn't really holding shape. I was tempted to let it. I was tempted to paint it black, but we don't have enough time, and I actually have a whole livery, so we're putting the livery over the red fender. I think it's a look. But bent the bash bar back.
Yeah, dude. Let's see if we can.
So each moment we're getting this thing closer to get ready for Drift Week, which I'm so nervous about. There you go. There we go. I was trying so hard to find a new bumper, which I thought would be the easiest thing to buy. A stock Z bumper. Not as easy as you think. They're all destroyed.
How we doing?
Pretty good. So, I actually got a whole livery made and designed. It's super cool. I'm so excited to show it off. But I think we're going to let it bark over the red fender. I think it'll be cool. It's a vibe, you know? What do you think, B? Should I rush and try and get this painted black or leave it red?
You can leave it red, but you got to buff the bottom. Somebody wet sanded it and then finish buffing this fender. Who would do that?
Before I ramble on any longer, because I've done so much talking today, I'm gonna rig up a fuel system which comes in tomorrow, and then put a battery to everything, put the ECU on, and try to get this thing to run. We're close. I just want to hear this thing run. I keep saying it, but I'm dying to hear those ITBs on this whole. I'm just dying to hear all of it. So, major progress today. Some really expensive, great parts on the car, but it's coming together quick, and I couldn't be more excited. I'm still, every time I walk by the car, I'm like overwhelmed with just how awesome it's coming out and how it's really been able to keep the soul alive for the car, you know? Whatever, I'm gonna shut up, but for now, thank you guys for watching. You guys know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe, stay tuned for more content. We'll see you guys very shortly.